The Captured Faeries, from Goblin Tales of Lancashire. Public domain reading. The Captured Faeries. There once lived in the little village of Hogton 2 idle, good-for-nothing fellows, who somehow or other managed to exist without spending the day from morning to dewy eve at the loom. While their more respectable neighbors were hard at work, they generally were to be seen either hanging about the doorway of the little alehouse or playing at dominoes inside the old-fashioned hostelry. And many a time in broad daylight their lusty voices might be heard as they trolled forth the hearty, poaching ditty. It's my delight on a shiny night. It was understood that they had reason to sympathize with the sentiments expressed in the old ballad. Each was followed by a ragged, suspicious-looking lurcher, and as the 4 lounged about the place, steady-going people shook their heads and prophesied all sorts of unpleasant terminations to so unsatisfactory a career. So far as the dogs were concerned, the dismal forebodings were verified, for from poaching into society of their masters, the clever lurchers took to doing a little on their own account, and both dogs were shot in the pursuit of game by gamekeepers, who were only too glad of an opportunity of ridding the neighborhood of such misdirected intelligence. Soon after this unfortunate event, the 2 men who themselves had a narrow escape had their nets taken from them, and as they were too poor to purchase new ones, and going about to borrow such articles was equivalent to accusing their friends of poaching, they were reduced to the necessity of using sacks whenever they visited the squire's fields. One night, after climbing the fence and making their way to a well-stocked warren, they put in a solitary ferret and rapidly fixed the sacks over the rabbit burrows. They did not wait long in anxious expectation of an exodus before there was a frantic rush, and after hastily grasping the sacks tightly around the necks and tempting their missionary from the hole, they crept through the hedgerow and at a sharp pace started for home. For some time they remained unaware of the nature of their load, and they were congratulating themselves upon the success of their hunt, which had crowned their industry, when suddenly there came a cry from one of the prisoners in the sack. "Dick, where art thou?" The poacher stood petrified with alarm, and almost immediately a voice from the other bag piped out, "In a sack, on a back, riding up Hotton Brow." The terrified men at once let their loads fall and fled at the top of their speed, leaving behind the bags full of fairies, who had been driven from their homes by the intruding ferret. The next morning, however, the 2 poachers ventured to the spot where they had heard the supernatural voices. The sacks, neatly folded, were lying at the side of the road, and the men took them up very tenderly, as though in expectation of another mysterious utterance, and then they crept off with the bags. Need it to be said, those bags were not afterwards used for any poaching purposes. Nothing more exciting than just carrying potatoes. However, like most sudden conversions, most hardworking people of the town didn't believe them. So like most sudden conversions, however, that of the 2 poachers into 2 hard-working weavers was regarded with suspicion by the inhabitants of the old world village. And in self-defense, the whilom wastrels were forced to tell the story of the imprisonment of the fairies. The wonderful narrative soon got noised abroad, and as the changed characters on many a summer evening afterwards sat hard at work in their loom house, and perhaps almost instinctively hummed the old poaching ditty, "It's my delight on a shiny night." The shock head of a lad would be protruded through the honeysuckle, which almost covered the casement, as the grinning youngster, who had been patiently waiting for the weaver to commence his song and give an opportunity for the oft-repeated repartee, cried, "Nay, it isn't the delight. Dick, where art thou?"